Welcome to Raptors Weekly for the week of February the 16th. The All-Star game has just ended, and Kyle Lowry was a starter in the All-Star game. The first time a Raptor has been a starter in a very, very long time. And Will just posted the quick reaction on the site. I can't believe you did one for the All-Star game, man.
I wouldn't really call it a quick reaction. It's just like random. I honestly, the grades were random. And I don't think I talked about the game very much. But
what was there to talk about, though?
Not that much. I don't know. I felt very disinterested when watching the game. This whole All-Star weekend has been really I don't want to say lame. It had its moments. If you're only watching the highlight clip of this thing, it'll look awesome because it's just Zach LaVine's dunks and Steph Curry's hot 3-point shooting, and Westbrook, he had a great game, 41 points in 23 minutes, almost broke Wilt's record for points in an All-Star game. But yeah, it was just a really boring game. So
yeah, they usually are. Sometimes they get tight in the fourth quarter, and then it becomes a little more entertaining. But what I do with All-Star Saturday night, I used to be a sucker, and I used to actually watch the whole 4-hour event on Saturday nights. And then I realized that of those 4 hours, about 3.5 really are commercials and introductions. And once you boil it down, it's about half an hour of action that includes the 3-point shootout and the dunk and whatever the riff-raff they throw in before that. So now I just PVR through basically everything. And the only reason I caught bits and pieces of the skills is because Kyle Lowry was in it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it wasn't. But the one time I tuned in on Saturday night, it was John Wall was shooting blindfolded free throws.
Oh, the horse game.
Yeah.
That was terrible. I only saw there was a GIF that someone made of all the made or attempted shots in the horse competition between Wall and Curry, and I think Wall's crossover 3-pointer was the only shot that went in. It was the saddest horse competition. They spelled horse really quickly.
I think the NBA has to figure out and find a way to get some 2-on-2, 3-on-3 action going on Saturday night or even Friday night, something to make it interesting. Because, with Adam Silver being a progressive commissioner, talking about all kinds of rule changes and whatnot this past weekend, one of the things he really has to do is make the All-Star game or the pre-All-Star activities a little more entertaining.
Yeah. All-Star Saturday weekend, like you said, just really sucks. I watched the whole thing because I'm super lame. Yeah, a regular fan would not want to tune in for any of that stuff. And they just fill it with so much trash that if you could do one of two things, you gotta either make it super amazing or just cut things out. Because does anyone care about the Shooting Stars challenge? Or the stupid skills challenge? What kind of skills challenge has Patrick Beverley coming up on top?
Well, speaking of skills challenge, let's have a listen on Kyle Lowry's destruction of Dennis Schroeder.
All right, we have our last two competitors now. Dennis Schroeder from the Atlanta Hawks, one of the best players, young players in German basketball. And Kyle Lowry, who went to high school in Philadelphia, first time All-Star this season. Here we go to wrap it up in the first round. Schroeder of the Hawks and Lowry from the Raptors.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And if you have not seen Dennis Schroeder, he can absolutely fly. How about the practices they have? Schroeder and
you getting excited, Will?
That the woman that counted down the numbers sounded kind of hot.
On the other end, and Schroeder obviously trailing, and now Lowry will attempt the three as Schroeder makes his layup. And he will advance. That was easy.
That was real easy. A little showmanship here, too, by Kyle Lowry.
All right, so that was pretty much the entertainment on Saturday night in 1 minute. We just covered what happened on Saturday night from a Raptors perspective. Lowry then went on to lose to Brandon Knight in similarly dominating fashion because just like how Lowry dominated Schroeder, Brandon Knight wasn't having any of it.
It's such a silly competition. Why don't they just make it harder? Because you and I could do this competition. I'm not good at basketball by any means, but I could dribble around 4, pylons basically and take a layup. So
the only interesting part of that whole routine is really the bounce pass, which is lame in itself, and then the 3-point shot, which which I guess is some level of skill. But the layup, I mean, come on.
Yeah, what is
We're nodding our heads in agreement so hard here, man.
We're shaking our heads in agreement, I think. Yeah. So
that was over. Brandon Knight beat him, and then it came the actual All-Star game. And Lowry did have one great moment. Let's listen in.
First ballot Hall of Fame after number 1 Tim Duncan, who he mentioned, but Kevin Garnett as well. These are 2 first ballot Hall of Famers.
Oh! How about Kyle Lowry? Now, wait a second. Would that qualify as a dunk? Because Raptor teammates, as Harden was able to hit on the break, say that Lowry has not dunked since 2009. The Gasol puts it down.
That definitely counts as a dunk, especially when you can't get a dunk. Anytime you get one, it counts. You cannot take it away. Nice tip finish.
Yeah, there you go. He had a pretty big dunk in the All-Star game. Somebody missed a jump shot, and he came in from the weak side and just hammered it home, surprised everybody. It was one of those moments which didn't even get a replay on the live broadcast. What's up with that?
I think everyone was just shocked. Did you know Lowry could dunk? I honestly thought Lowry couldn't dunk. That's why he never did. Because he's had tons of opportunities on like fast breaks or whatever where he's just wide open and comes in with the layup.
I just assume that every NBA player can dunk, and they just choose not to for whatever reason. And if they really wanted to, they could, and he obviously showed that he could get up.
And I think that came like moments after Dirk Nowitzki caught an alley-oop and dunked it.
Yeah.
I think that was the highlight of the night
in
terms of the All-Star game.
Yeah, but overall, Lowry, he had a so-so game. He missed a couple of open shots, looked a little jittery in the first quarter, and I think he was just taken by surprise at how selfish the All-Star game really is. Like, I think LeBron was bringing the ball up the court, and Lowry kind of presented himself like, hey, pass the ball to the point guard, but the pass never came. But when he got the ball, he actually made a pass back to LeBron. Obviously, he never saw the ball back.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about how selfish LeBron, or how seriously LeBron took this game. It was a little bit weird that he took it super seriously. He didn't really play that well. Even the only thing he did well was run down the court through weak defense and just dunk. It's weird seeing LeBron try and then not win, right? Because Westbrook, obviously Westbrook is, he cares all the time. I compared him to a shark in the quick react for some reason. He just cares all the time, and he just always wants to attack. And that's how LeBron used to be, but it was a little bit effortless in the way he would score the ball, the way Westbrook is now. LeBron looks so labored and clanked all these jump shots. What did he shoot on 3-pointers? 4 of 12. That's not great. So, I don't know. It was weird.
And it's really weird to see somebody try really hard during the All-Star game. It's just something you don't see. You're supposed to take it easy there. It's a pickup game, casual. But he came off like crossing people over and dunking it and grabbing rebounds. And it just felt forced. And I'm glad that the West won and Westbrook got the MVP. Because if the East would have won, James probably would have gotten it.
Yeah. He definitely would have gotten it. There was no one else in the East that really deserved it. Maybe Kyle Korver, he made 7 threes. That's about it. I don't know.
But let's rewind back a little bit, man, on Saturday night and talk about the 3-point shootout, which was again the highlight of the evening. Steph Curry, man, any words for him?
So on Saturday night, I watched it with one of my roommates, and he's not a basketball fan whatsoever. So I had to introduce him to everything, and he was pretty pissed that I made him watch the Shooting Stars competition and the All-Star or the skills challenge. And then I was like, no, don't worry, the 3-point shooting contest is going to be amazing. Steph Curry is a generational talent. This guy is going to be amazing. He's like, how could I be amazed by a guy shooting 3-pointers? That happens all the time in a game. And by the end of it, after he's the second round where he had 27, we were just screaming with every three. I think the 3-point shooting contest is with all the star power in it, it's become this super cool event to go to.
And it has become the highlight of the evening, more so even than the dunk contest. And it has been for a number of years now. In his pregame availability, Kyle Lowry, he was asked about Steph Curry, and he goes, that guy, he's probably the best player in the league right now. Him and James he picked out. And what he said about Curry was that when you're guarding him, you're really just hoping that he misses. That he's so unguardable, so quick, such a great shot that if you're defending him, your best hope is that he just has an off night. And that's something you say about the truly great players. You don't hear that being said about Joe Johnson or any of those guys. You got to get to a certain level to get those kind of compliments. And Steph Curry right now is playing at that level. And I think our man Hardwood Paroxysm, Matt Moore, I think he tweeted, he's like, Steph Curry can't really exceed expectations. He can only meet them.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of been LeBron's career arc as well. But obviously Steph Curry has worked to raise his expectations, whereas LeBron has always had them because he's been this highly touted guy. It's just kind of amazing. And I think the cool thing about Steph is that you can't really imagine you're LeBron James because you're not going to jump from the free throw line and slam down a dunk. Whereas Steph Curry is a regular human sized. obviously a very fit regular human who's like, extremely good at basketball. But like if you're a kid playing like in front of your garage or whatever, you can pretend and think that you're Steph Curry. You can't ever do that with LeBron. And I think that's really cool.
The one thing that does inflate the 3-point, shooting totals is the last rack, which is all money balls now. So the 27-point, it's not as comparable as say to, some of the scores in the mid 2000s or
like the Craig Hodges. Hodges exactly. Had like 25 points or something.
Yeah, so like if you project that over with the last thing being Moneyball, that's like 35 or something.
Yeah. Did you notice how many times Reggie and Kenny kept saying Moneyball Rack? They said it like 1,000 times, and the whole time I kept thinking like, that's what I would call my testicles.
All right, good stuff, man. Anything else for the All-Star break before we take a break?
The dunk contest, Zach Lavine.
All right, dunk contest. Yeah, Zach Lavine. I think the best performance since Vince Carter, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. It was weird because like when you watch, like if you search YouTube videos, like you can see Zach Lavine doing those exact same dunks, and some of them like it's some even better dunks than that. And you're like mind blown when you watch it on YouTube, but like when you actually see it in the contest itself, with all the bright lights on and everything, and he's actually just like nailing these attempts. Like on the first two attempts, I think he jumped up, went behind the back, dunked it. Around the back, dunked it. And then the other one, he put it between his legs or something. Like it was just so effortless, so much power, and as compared to like everyone else who. Basically, everyone else sucked. I mean, Oladipo had that one super cool 540, but everyone else sucked.
And the reason it looks so good in the All-Star competition is because the camera work is phenomenal, whereas on YouTube, it's been shot by an iPhone camera.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Like when you have like 18 different cameras on all different angles and, in slow motion, HD, and it just looks really sublime. Like the one dunk he threw, I think he bounced it off the structure that supports the board.
Yeah, the stanchion, yeah.
Yeah, and then he brought it on for a jam. I mean, that's on YouTube as well, but it just looks way better on All-Star Saturday Night.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think Wiggins is going to join the dunk contest next year when it's in Toronto?
I think he will naturally get an invite just because the NBA likes to set those kind of matchups up, right? So I'd be surprised that Wiggins is in center stage next year. And man, what I'm liking about Wiggins so far is that he just may make Cleveland regret that trade sooner than later.
Yeah, no one thought he'd be this good, right? Like,
we thought he'd be good.
Okay, no, immediately I meant because like, do you remember like there were a lot of like doubts cast upon him. Like he didn't have the killer instinct. He didn't have a very tight dribble. He couldn't like shoot the ball, and like. To some extent, some of those things are true, but like he's been so much better than advertised. And what is he still like 19?
Yeah, which rookie comes prepackaged with all those skills, man?
Yeah, exactly. Like
I don't know if you can even criticize Wiggins for anything coming into college, like coming in the NBA.
Yeah, he's been amazing, and like he's like he's already an above average defender, which is so hard for rookies to do. And I mean, in retrospect, I obviously wouldn't do that deal, but right now, I mean, at the time, I thought it made total sense. Like you can't waste years of LeBron's career.
Well, let's take a quick break and come back and talk some Raptors. Welcome back to part 2 of Raptors Weekly. Let's talk some Raptors. Enough All-Star talk. They did beat the Wizards before the break, 95-93 at home, which ended up being a 3-game winning streak. So the Raptors started that dreaded 8-game stretch with 3 straight wins, which is made all the more surprising by them losing to Milwaukee and Brooklyn prior to that. So the Raptors Washington sweeping Washington for the first time in a couple of years.
Like going into this 8-game stretch, if you just told me that the Raptors are going to go 3-5, I would have been thrilled. Like they weren't playing that well to begin with. They're losing the Bucks and Nets, as you said. And this stretch is very difficult on paper. Now, beating the Clippers was really impressive. Beating the Spurs, I was like actually just physically freaking out. That was probably the best game I've seen outside of a playoff context in terms of Raptors games. And the Wizards game was, I don't know, it was a bit weird. The Wizards like just can't seem to beat Toronto at all. Like their only win over Toronto in the last couple of years was the triple overtime game when everybody fouled out on the Raptors. And it was like Vasquez shooting every shot in triple overtime.
Yeah, I think Lou Williams had one of his good games.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that is now that him and Vasquez have been split up a little bit because Vasquez spent some time in the starting lineup, and I think Casey's trying to shuffle it around just because it seems like the Vasquez-Lou Williams thing just doesn't work that great, the two of them together. So if you just put the ball in Lou's hands to begin with, I mean, he's bound to pass a little bit more because he's not going to just take every possession for himself, right?
Yeah.
So
probably the league has adjusted to those two playing as well because they used to start the fourth quarter and absolutely crush the competition. They were like, I think, +8 in a stretch in December where they used to come in to start the fourth and increase the lead or just come back. And I think those days are kind of over. And Casey's kind of adjusted as well. So props to him.
Mm-hmm.
So this week is the trade deadline. February 19th to be exact. I think that works out to be a Thursday. The Raptors, there haven't been many rumblings. The only ones that we were aware of was something about a power forward and some names like Taj Gibson and Kenneth Faried were thrown out. But there were no substantial rumors, nothing sourced, no quotes. It's just hearsay. And we know that Masai is a very tight-lipped GM, so chances are that he's not going to leak anything this early. But looking at the roster, what are the room to make moves the Raptors have at this point?
Well, I mean, the Raptors are in a good spot in terms of trading wise because A, they're definitely going to make the playoffs and they're going to be a top 4 seed, and B, they have assets to move and match salary that won't actually impact the team. Like, so they have Hansbrough, they have Landry Fields, and they have Chuck Hayes to match salary, and of course they have a whole bunch of first round picks, or they own their own first round picks going forward. In terms of spots I'd upgrade, I think we're probably in agreement here. I'd like to see an upgrade over Tyler Hansbrough, and I'd like to see an upgrade, a reliable sort of wing, if possible, one of those two spots. So my biggest thing with the trade deadline is that it's probably best that the Raptors don't make a short-sighted move and take on a salary that's going to extend past this season, because if you look at the Raptors cap sheet this offseason, if everything stays status quo, the Raptors will have max cap space and also a whole bunch of assets to trade. And that's the time where Masai can really grab someone impactful either on the wing or at power forward, and really transform this team and take them to the next level. If you add a star to this team, I think it's really formidable. But if he instead chooses to make like an intermediary move, like grabbing Taj Gibson, who is a nice player but doesn't really fit, especially given the landscape of our bigs, or like a David West or someone like that. Basically, if they eat into next year's salary, like it's, I don't know, the Raptors are kind of stuck where they are, right?
Like their biggest asset right now really is about $15.5 million in expiring contracts with Landry Fields, Chuck Hayes, and Tyler Hansbrough. Like that's what they can offer teams. And they can sweeten the pot with some talent in the form of Terrence Ross, maybe. I don't know if he's on the block, but you could potentially put him on the block, and then you could sweeten the pot. So now you get some talent and some cap relief. And if you're a team looking for that, the Raptors are probably your perfect destination, because I don't think many teams are in this situation where they got this much expiring coming off. But again, the question is he going to make a move to get somebody like Taj Gibson? Like I wouldn't be like. Taj Gibson is probably the exception where I'd say, like, yeah, go ahead and get him if you can. But I just don't see why Taj Gibson would be on the block, especially given Noah's injuries. So he'd be the lone exception of it. But the guys like Kenneth Faried and whatnot, not a big fan.
Yeah, like what's Kenneth Faried really going to do here? Is he even an upgrade over healthy Amir Johnson? I don't think so, really. Like,
I don't think he's if Amir's healthy and he's healthy, Amir is still the better player.
Yeah, like I mean, Faried's obviously definitely more athletic and he grabs more rebounds and stuff, and Amir has kind of sucked on the boards this year, but at least Amir plays great defense and stuff.
And Kenneth Faried is a poor defender. He's not a good defender at all. Like he looked like he's got a lot of energy in him. He gets a lot of offensive rebounds, so he looks like he's doing a lot on the court, but in a half court set, he's actually not a very good defender, because he can't move his feet.
And he can't shoot.
Yeah. He's more of a, like, sometimes you see him make like a help D block and that makes a highlight reel and you think he's a good defender, but really in a lot of situations in the games he gets outplayed quite frequently.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would disagree with you with Taj Gibson just because I don't think he really has the size to consistently play center. Also, why would Chicago trade to Toronto to improve their team?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They would need a substantial upgrade back. Chicago is obviously looking for a solid small forward because their team literally fell apart when Mike Dunleavy got injured. But the Raptors don't have any small forwards. In fact, it's a spot of weakness for the Raptors. So it'd have to be at minimum a 3-team trade. So
yeah.
I don't really see that one happening.
Yeah, just based the way things stand, like the Raptors' assets don't match Chicago's needs. So they're just not a good fit. And 3-team trades are even harder to execute, especially amongst teams who are trying to compete against each other. So it just doesn't make sense. So I'm not foreseeing much movement here. I think they might pick up another big maybe.
A little Nando DeColo action.
Nando DeColo was a nice little surprise.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. Just Austin Day for Nando DeColo.
Quick breaking news as we're recording this. Something just popped up on Twitter. Will, tell us about it.
Okay, so there's a report coming from Alex Kennedy of Basketball Insiders that says that the Los Angeles Clippers, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Phoenix Suns, and the Toronto Raptors are expected to pursue Amar'e Stoudemire after he gets bought out.
There you go. We were just talking about big man help. And Amar'e is, what is he in the last year of his deal?
Yeah, he's in the last year of his $22 million deal that the Knicks signed to. So that deal is so dumb. The Knicks cleared out all that cap space. They missed out on everybody, so they were stuck with Amar'e. They had to give him $100 million, completely guaranteed. Yeah. Anyway, so
does he fall in the let's get a player for this year without sacrificing future flexibility role?
Yes, but there is a small problem, and that's because the Raptors are very, very close to the cap, such that they can't just outright cut Steemzma and sign Amar'e. So they probably have to give up a second round pick to clear up cap room to do that. So, I don't know. Amar'e's weird. He can still get a couple buckets for you. He's mostly just a post up guy now. You can play pick and roll with him, but he's kind of slow. He can't shoot at all, and his defense is just really terrible. So I don't know. He's would be a marginal upgrade on Tyler Hansbrough.
Yeah, for the Raptors, a team that doesn't run the pick and roll, and seeing how Amar'e Stoudemire, that's the only thing he has ever shown that he's excellent at, with Nash especially. If you're not going to run pick and roll, there's no point in getting Amar'e Stoudemire because you're not going to allocate 10 posts up a game for him. You're just not, because that's not your offense. So you're not getting him here for his rebounding, and he's always injured. So what?
Maybe it's just for the size, he could play center, backup center, and just do things defensively. I mean, I don't mean you want Amar'e Stoudemire for defense because obviously he sucks at it, but at least he's a big body that you can grab. I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, then you might as well just play.
Yeah, it's a very expensive big body. Yeah, I just don't see Ujiri looking at Stoudemire and going, yeah, that guy is going to add something of great value to the team, because he's not a great rebounder. Our offense doesn't really fit with his strengths. So I'm really surprised why the Raptors would opt for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Stoudemire will go west. There's a whole bunch of teams that could actually use Stoudemire. It's the Clippers, the Trailblazers, the Mavericks. They could really use him.
Yeah, and I think Portland would be a good fit because Lillard is a good PNR point guard, and they like to run that play a lot. And him and Aldridge are kind of similar players, although Aldridge can obviously shoot a lot better from the outside. But I can see him being a fit there.
Yeah, for sure. If Portland clinches the Northwest and whatever, and then Aldridge decides to have his surgery and he's out for 6 weeks, you could put Amar'e Stoudemire in, and it's not going to be the end of the world. They're not going to lose every game. So
hey, we should talk about Drake before we sign off, man. He had the mixtape, and he came out with this tribute or call out or shout out to all these people, and eventually a bunch of Raptors in there, and 2 Raptors were missing. Who were they, Will?
I think they're Landry Fields and Tyler Hansbrough.
And Grig Steemzma's name was spelled wrong.
You can't blame him. Steemzma has a very confusing last name.
Yeah, but dude, it's just one simple Google search. It would take literally 3 seconds to get that right.
I mean, if he Google searched, then he probably would have realized, oh yeah, I forgot about Landry and Hansbrough.
It's just, I don't know. It's just so insulting if you're Grig Steemzma or even the other two.
But then at the same time, don't you think Grig Steemzma could walk proudly knowing that at least Drake knows who he is instead of Landry Fields?
True.
And I don't know the conspiracy theory, but maybe that suggests that Landry and Tyler are going to be traded. Maybe. How LeBron wrote the "I'm coming home" letter and didn't mention Wiggins and Bennett.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. That makes sense.
All right. So once the Raptors do come back, they got a bit of a schedule here. They got Atlanta on Friday and Houston on Saturday, a back-to-back on the road, both of them. Atlanta's hit a bit of a stumble. They're still amazing, but they've lost a couple of games. So the Raptors, winners of 3 straight, heading into Atlanta. Any thoughts on this one?
I think ultimately the Raptors lose just because Atlanta is so good and it's on the road. But I think I've noticed what Atlanta's weakness might be, and I think that's on the offensive glass. Like, they really struggle against like an Andre Drummond type or an Anthony Davis type. Now the problem is the Raptors don't have anyone like that, and they can't afford to play Jonas a long time because Jonas can't step out to the perimeter, and the Hawks always play 5 out. So it's a bad matchup.
Yeah,
but they do have weaknesses.
And then you got Houston after that, which is Charles Barkley's favorite team.
Yeah, because of the analytics.
Yeah. What'd you think of his rant on analytics?
It's just really dumb. He doesn't really know anything about analytics, so it's disappointing, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with him, which is even more disappointing. It comes down to this: if you don't think about his analytics as this like magical thing, if you just think about it as information, because that's really what it is, and whether or not you choose to use information or not, ultimately more information can hurt you, and so. I don't know. I mean, this is the way all businesses operate, except for the NBA, where there's some weird pushback. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's there's a conflict here between the old guard and this new line of thinking. It's almost like a curmudgeon old man disagreeing with some progressive culture changes happening during his lifetime. And Charles Barkley is really coming out looking pretty dumb because he doesn't really have the nuance to argue against analytics, so he just tends to just insult it, and that doesn't quite work. So if I were him, I would just not say anything and look smart that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't really start the fight. He just said something dumb, or he said that the Rockets' defense is terrible, and it's not. The Rockets' defense is like 4th in defensive rating and like 3rd in points allowed per game and stuff. And they have Dwight Howard, so it's probably never going to be terrible. And then Morey, called Charles a dumbass and stuff, and then that started the whole thing. So.
Yeah. And then he's got beef with Cousins because apparently David Aldridge reported that the Kings might consult with Cousins on who the coach should be, and Barkley took like great offense to that, and he I think he said the word bullshit on TV, which people made a big deal about. What is up with that though? Why can't you say bullshit on TV?
I don't know. I mean, why not? Yeah, you're right. We should say bullshit. We'll say bullshit here. We can do it on the podcast. We can say a lot of worse things than bullshit, actually. But, I just like why would you not consult Boogie? Like, clearly he's the franchise cornerstone. You don't have to like say like, okay, we got 3 guys here and show them pictures and tell Boogie to pick one. Like, but like, you should at least make sure that Boogie's okay with the guy, right?
Is that? I'm kind of split on that, man. I'm kind of split on that. Yeah, because why do you have to justify a coaching hire from a player perspective? Like, what does Boogie know about what's a good coach and what's not? Like, if they pick out like 3 candidates, like, has Boogie done like extensive research on those 3 guys that he has an informed opinion that that's a good guy for the team? No.
But I mean, like, at a certain point, you just have to accept the fact that Boogie is temperamental, and if you want to make him your franchise cornerstone, you're accepting the good with the bad, and to just ignore that is a little bit weird and expect him to be professional, because Boogie's not really going to be that professional. He's not a DeMar DeRozan type that's going to, roll with the punches and be a blue collar guy. He's gonna pout and make faces and not move on defense whatsoever.
Okay, if at the start of the season you went to Boogie, okay, Boogie, we might get Steve Kerr, Derek Fisher, or I don't know, Budenholzer as a coach. What information can possibly Boogie give you and say, yeah, that guy's a good hire and that guy's not?
I don't know.
Nothing.
But with George Karl is a different case, because like George Karl likes to play a fast system. Boogie is mostly a post-up guy. I mean, Boogie's fast for a center, but like he's still a center, and like George Karl likes small ball. Like, it just doesn't, like, he has a very long track record of playing one specific way that seems like Boogie would never fit in it. So I don't know. I just don't think it's that crazy. Like, you can consult the guy and you can sit down with him and say, like, look, you might not like him at first, but trust me, it's going to work out.
Okay, in that case, you're telling him. You're not asking or consulting for his opinion on whether you should hire the guy.
I mean, you can still consult for the opinion and then ignore it. So I don't know. I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, Boogie's clearly the most important employee.
Will's coming from the progressive idealists. I'm more of the older guard, I guess.
You're the Charles Barkley in this case, and I'm Daryl Morey. That looks bad for both of us, actually.
All right, man. I think we'll come back next week with a full slate Raptors Weekly. But Andrew's in Florida. It's minus 38 in Toronto with a wind chill, and Andrew's in Florida. He picked a good week to go.
Yeah. Wow. Andrew, congratulations. I know you're not listening to this podcast, so I'm very jealous.
We miss you, buddy. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.